Schumer's on the record for Stevens in Michigan, and he's selling multiple paths to a majority. So let's count the exits because I count about 4, and they're all marked one way. This is Senate Pickup Watch, Friday edition. 3 things landed at once today, and they all tie back to arguments we've been chewing on all week.
And for once, they're not vibes, they're data points. Osborn's on the ballot, Schumer's picked a horse, and Crystal Ball just redrew the map.
So let's start in Nebraska, where the petition lane I kept flagging just closed for real. KLKN confirms it. 12,000 plus signatures. Osborn officially on the ballot against Ricketts. The petition question settled.
And that's the first operational proof of an organization that didn't exist 6 months ago. You don't get 12,000 valid signatures on a vibe.
Right, but signatures were the free signal. What I still haven't seen is a finance report. And now there's a real start date to measure him against.
Here's what I'm watching. Does Burbank hold, or do Nebraska Dems quietly peel off to Osborn? That tells you whether the independent lane has a real floor.
A floor he can't fund is just a nicer-looking ceiling. Show me the in-state number.
Fair. But Michigan is where the structural tell is. Schumer going public for Stevens in a contested 3-way primary.
And there it is. The DSCC pattern I've been describing in the abstract all cycle, now time-stamped in Punchbowl with Haley Stevens attached.
Stevens is the classic Obama coalition pick. Suburban, credentialed, party-aligned. And Schumer's betting that profile beats Rogers in a realignment cycle that keeps punishing it.
He literally said multiple paths, Rich. That's the same optimism I flagged last week, only now it's coming from the guy holding the checkbook.
Which brings us to the fine print on those paths. Crystal Ball moved North Carolina to leans Democratic, real shift, and Ohio and Alaska to toss-up.
And for the first time this cycle, there's a ratings-based argument Democrats can get to a majority without a true long shot. Sounds great until you read the next line.
The next line, Democrats need all 4 toss-ups. Republicans need 1. That asymmetry's buried under an optimistic headline, and nobody should skate past it.
4 for 4 is a coin flip parlay masquerading as a map. Sabato says it himself. They have to run the table.
And I'd read those Alaska and Ohio numbers with extra skepticism. Polling in low-density red states leans toward incumbents. The toss-up call might already be generous.
So here's the day. Osborn's on the ballot, but still unproven on money. Schumer's spending political capital on a marquee profile, and the math says everything has to break right.
3 data points, 1 direction. The party's still running the old playbook, and the structural math doesn't care how polished the press release sounds.
We'll keep watching the finance window on Osborn. That's the next thing that's actually knowable. More Monday. Andrew Desiderio, Laura Weiss, writing in Punchbowl News.
Schumer's remarks come as Democrats have dramatically improved their chances of winning the Senate majority, which wasn't even a serious prospect a year ago. Schumer's recruiting wins in red states have helped significantly, as have President Donald Trump's historically low approval numbers amid the unpopular war in Iran and soaring gas prices.
Schumer says he needs multiple paths, and I've been skeptical of that exact phrase all week. Now he's saying it to Punchbowl himself, so let's take him at face value. Today, the path he's clearing is Haley Stevens. Best chance to win. That's the DSCC marquee instinct with a calendar date attached. 3-way primary, August 4th, and the leader's putting his thumb on the suburban credentialed pick.
Right, and Stevens is the Obama coalition profile down to the studs. Suburban, credentialed, party-aligned. Schumer's betting that beats Mike Rogers in Michigan. That's the recruiting tell I keep flagging. You're running a 2012 coalition into a 2026 realignment electorate. McMorrow and El Sayed are in that field for a reason. There's an appetite Schumer's reading past.
A year ago, per Punchbowl, nobody in that building thought a majority was even live. Now Schumer's confident enough to torch his neutrality in a contested primary. Confidence is cheap. Michigan votes in August. From Tegan Goddard at Political Wire.
Democrats need to win all 4 of our toss-ups to get to a majority, while Republicans need just one to preserve a nominal 50-50 majority because they hold the vice presidential tiebreaker. Democrats also have their work cut out for them in the 4 toss-ups, albeit for different reasons. In Maine and Michigan, there are questions about the quality of the Democratic candidates. In Alaska and Ohio, meanwhile, the questions are more about Democrats' ability to overcome each state's pronounced GOP lean.
3 moves, all toward Democrats. North Carolina to leans Dem, Alaska and Ohio to toss-up. If you only read the headline, you'd think the map cracked open. Then you hit the fine print. Democrats have to run all 4 toss-ups. Republicans need exactly 1 to hold it 50-50 with the VP tiebreaker. Momentum's nice. This is still a tightrope with no net.
And Sabato basically does my job for me on 2 of them. He flags candidate quality in Maine and Michigan by name. After the Schumer-Stevens piece we just hit, that lands a little differently.
Right, and in his telling, Alaska and Ohio are about GOP lean, not candidate quality. Different disease, and the party keeps prescribing the same medicine.
This is the first ratings-based path to a majority I've seen all cycle that doesn't require a true long shot. It just requires perfection across 4 states. Sabato himself still favors Republicans overall. Danielle De Silva, writing in KLKN-TV.
The former Navy veteran and pro-union advocate also thanked his supporters on Thursday before submitting roughly 12,500 petition signatures to the state secretary's office. Osborn says that if elected, he'll prioritize working-class families, reform retirement benefits, and form a coalition. A coalition of Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, Independents under one roof, especially at a time when our country feels so divided, he said.
So it's official. Osborn submitted roughly 12,500 signatures, the Secretary's office took them, and he's on the November ballot against Ricketts. The petition lane I kept flagging all week? Closed.
And this is the part I'll give him. 6 months ago, that organization did not exist. 12,500 signatures in a red state without a party machine behind you is an actual operational result, not a vibe.
It is. Signatures were the free signal, though. They cost volunteers and shoe leather. They don't tell you whether the campaign has the money it lives or dies on.
Which is your way of saying you want to see the finance report.
I want to see the finance report. He's on the ballot. That's a start date for the in-state money test, not an answer to it.
Here's what's interesting to me, though. His pitch is a coalition of Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians under one roof. That's the independent appetite showing up as an actual platform. In a state where Schumer's whole map doesn't even include Nebraska.
Got a race we should be watching, a story idea, or a correction? Send it our way at SenatePickupWatch@lanternpodcasts.com. We read your notes, and they help sharpen the show. We've put links to every story from today's briefing in the show notes. So if one caught your attention, you can go a little deeper there. That's Senate Pickup Watch for today. This is a Lantern podcast.